When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. In 2026, no one needs to hire a running coach to write a training plan. AI has made that process nearly instant, practically free, and does a good enough job to appeal to the masses that just want to be told what to run that day. As a running coach, I feel the AI impact in my work every day, and there's nothing I can do to change this. So the deeper question is, how does the work of a human running coach go beyond what a large language model can iterate? What is the intrinsic human value of what I do to help runners around the world? I'm going to be exploring that a lot in my work coming up, and to help me out today, I'm talking to another running coach and voice you might recognize, Matt Chittim of the Rambling Runner podcast. And the conversation gets interesting. Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. Today, Matt and I go into a lot of running topics like how AI is changing the profession, how masters runners can change their relationship with running, and what Matt is doing now with knee surgery coming up. I was recently a guest on The Rambling Runner, so if you haven't checked out that conversation, please do that right after this one. Don't forget to stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode for another Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. And now here's my conversation with Matt Chittim. Welcome back to The Planted Runner, Matt.
It's exciting to be here. I feel like we had a little test run on my show, and now I'm ready. I'm fully prepared to dive in and, talk about all things running with Claire Bartholic.
I actually listened to that episode of me on your show. I never listened to my own episodes. It just is kind of weird, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to listen to that one. And it's really good. I think everybody should listen.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I definitely don't listen to my episodes either. For people who are listening who don't have a podcast or anything like that, it's like it can be cringe inducing to listen to yourself. It's almost like listening to you ever reviewed a voice message that you've left somebody or a doctor's office and listen back to make sure you had all the information, and you're like, wow, this is hard to listen to. It's like an hour-long version of that sometimes, or at least that's how it can feel.
I mean, aren't you used to your own voice? I hear my own voice all the time. So I'm totally used to it. I know what you're talking about, but I don't even get that anymore. I'm so used to hearing my own voice. For
me, it isn't the tenor and pitch of the voice itself. It's the words that are coming out of my mouth. But I think that the voice itself is fine.
Okay. So you have had a career change lately. I want to talk about that first. So for people who don't follow you that closely, or they just know you as the Rambling Runner, tell everybody what's going on.
Yeah. So for the last 6 years or so, I had been full-time with the podcast, and not just this podcast, not just the Rambling Runner podcast, but also with Road to the Trials, which we do in seasons, and season 4 is going on right now that the Olympic trials window is open. And, there's that part of it. I was doing relay as well for a while, which was kind of like a media venture that we tried out. And, all of that was great. I also coached on the side, which was fantastic. And I was coaching with McCurdy Trained for a long time. And for me, that was so much fun. It was the culmination of years of work and stuff that's related to the podcast and things that were not related to the podcast. And we can talk about my professional background if you want to, but ultimately, earlier this year, it's like, as much as I love doing this, and I love doing this, and it's been great for my family to be like at home, I can set my own hours, besides like making sure that, the podcast recording time works with my potential guest. I can work at any time of day.
Right.
And that's totally fine. And it allowed us so much family versatility because my wife's a teacher, which means that like she doesn't have any versatility. Like she can't move her schedule around at all. Right. So it definitely helped with our kids growing. And certainly during COVID times, my first day as a full-time podcaster was the first day of COVID lockdown. So even that wasn't like a full integration into that life because I was really, basically an elementary school teacher at our dining room table while my wife was a literal elementary school teacher up in our bedroom working virtually with all the kids in her classroom. And so it was great. But ultimately, being a solopreneur, being someone who just like, while I spend my days talking to people for the show, I'm basically at home by myself with my dogs, just kind of getting work done. And there's a lot of value in that. And I don't want to make it sound like that's a negative, but it does for me bring out some of the most negative parts of my work personality. And that is like, I'm at my best when I'm working directly with other people in collaboration. And how I like to frame that is when I was working in an office setting, which I was for the majority of my life, I was the person who, like, if you sent me an email, I would walk to your office to talk about it. Because I just preferred that, as evidenced by the fact that I named my show The Rambling Runner. Like, I just preferred that kind of communication, not only from a medium perspective, but also the collaboration that comes with interpersonal connection, conversation, and oftentimes unplanned, spontaneous communication and the results therein. And I miss that. I miss being part of a team and all of that. So ultimately, around the turn of the calendar year, I started looking around to see if there's opportunities within the running space that will allow me to capitalize on the experiences I've had, not only as a professional fundraiser for almost 2 decades, but also in the media space. And I was able to find something that fit really, really well. And that was the manager of business development at Running USA.
And what is your role exactly? Like, what do you do day to day?
Yeah. So my role is twofold. It's the membership piece and it's the sponsorship piece. So, being the point person for communications for current members and for potential new members, being members into the fold for Running USA. And then in addition to that, the sponsorship piece, which is primarily around the Running USA conference, which is the most important conference within the running industry. So like the business of running, right? So a lot of people are familiar with TRE. That's an enormous conference within running. That's kind of centered around the shoe industry and, the running shoe store. Running shoe stores nationwide, which is an enormous part of running. And that's a fantastic conference centered on those pieces. There's TrailCon going on right now between Broken Arrow and Western States, put on in part by Dylan Bowman, his group over at Free Trail, and that's like a fantastic conference as well. And the Running USA conference happens every year at the end of January, beginning of February, and that's centered on the business of running. So we're talking about race directors, we're talking about sponsors, we're talking about the charities that are involved with running, we're talking about like the businesses that are associated with races. So timing businesses, apparel businesses, registration companies, things like that. So basically it's the membership piece and the sponsorship piece kind of folded into one. And we have a small but mighty team over Running USA and trying to elevate the running experience for everybody in the country.
Yeah, I don't think Running USA is like a household name. Like most people are runners, but if you said, hey, what do you think about Running USA? And people will be like, huh? It's not really well known to a regular runner. For sure. And I think in part because it's not it is technically a nonprofit, but even if you were to put it more of in a corporate phrasing, it's more of a business to business organization than a B2C, like a business to consumer organization. So if you're in the running business industry, you are certainly familiar with Running USA. You've been going to the conferences for 5, 10, maybe 15 to 20 years.
and all of that. So that's the piece for a lot of, dedicated amateur runners who might be listening to this are like, oh, I'm not familiar with that. And that's why, because it's more on the business side of things and connecting those folks, and also at the same time educating. So like making sure that, the say like the races and things like that are as best they can be through education and connecting peers. You think about like, these race organizations, a lot of them, especially the small and medium sized ones, work similar as like a nonprofit in terms of like, there's usually like, 4 to 6 people doing the work of 10 to 15 people. So it's nearly impossible for these folks to learn about like the best practices within the industry, or learning like what worked well at this other race that I've never been to and don't know anybody at. And that's where Running USA can kind of be the middleman in terms of connecting a lot of these folks so that they can learn from each other and improve the running industry as a whole.
Gotcha. So are you doing any coaching still, or is that behind you?
I am. Yeah. So I coach about a dozen runners.
Okay. Now, this is what I kind of wanted to talk to you about, just because obviously I'm a running coach too, and things are getting weird out there. Things are changing in the running space or the running coaching space. And notably, I'm talking about AI. So I want to talk about where you think run coaching is going, and have you seen the effects of that?
First of all, it's definitely true that AI is affecting run coaching. There is no doubt about it. With that said, I don't think it's going to drastically affect private individual coaches if they're doing a really good job for their clients. Mm-hmm. So what I think AI is going to do is that it's going to allow the folks who before didn't have a middle ground between the free online plan, right, which are a good starting point, and the people who put those out mean well, they work hard. There's nothing wrong with those things as long as you know what they are. It's a rough rubric to get a general understanding of how a training plan should proceed for like the median average person, right? With 1,000 caveats attached to that. Okay. Right. And then the other end of the spectrum is the one-on-one personal coach you and I do with athletes, which is fantastic. But for a lot of folks, there was no middle ground there. There's a couple people who do group coaching things, but those haven't been, incredibly popular. It's a pretty small subset of even the one-on-one coaching ranks, if you're going to, lump it in, which in and of itself is a pretty small subset of just the general running public. So I think AI is great because it's going to allow a lot of people who either don't have the funds or they're new to the space or whatever to get more information about running and to learn about how they can get better as, within their spectrum.
So I totally agree with everything you just said, but as somebody who I don't offer any stock plans. All my plans are custom. And then I have group coaching, and then I have one-on-one coaching. So I do the whole spectrum of it, and I'm feeling it across the board. I'm feeling it in every single area. What I used to do isn't working anymore as well. I feel it all the time, I think. And I'm not like bitter about it or weird about it. Oh, AI is taking my job. I mean, AI is taking my job. But I think it's also an opportunity as well. I think that the training plan, like how to run a marathon, I think that's dead. I think that's dead for individual coaches. I think that Claude or Runna or fill in the blank can do that for you. I think that a good coach has to provide something human that AI can never do. And I know I do that, but I think that there's ways to enhance the human part of it that is going to be the challenge over the next even year. Now, I'm not 6 months, it's moving so fast.
I couldn't agree more. No, I'm not saying it's not going to eat into anyone's business. I do think it could, for sure, especially for people who are kind of like on the fence whether or not they want to coach or not. And there's going to be certain people at seasons of their life that are going to fit into that bucket. And AI does give them a nice soft offboarding into something that still provides counsel, where they don't have to feel like they're constantly researching and all this stuff. It does offload the responsibility onto something that is able to find potentially the best practices within the industry and serve that up to the runner. With that said, I think for a lot of people who want coaching, it's not about necessarily, their primary reason isn't about the knowledge.
Right.
Right. That wasn't for a large portion of people. That is not the primary reason why they want to coach. Okay. Oftentimes while that's an important piece, it's not that. It's more like, hey, I want the accountability. I need an accountability partner here. I want someone who's going to help me figure things out because I have a busy life. I need to move things around. I want like a thought partner in terms of how to think about my training and my goals and things like that. And I just want someone to interact with in regards to my training. So essentially what I'm saying is they want somebody who's going to be able to interact with them on a personal level a lot. Mm-hmm. So for, say, a coach, and I have fallen into this mix plenty of times where, like, say I'm just prioritizing other parts of my professional life more than my coaching, which is not an excuse. I should not have done that at parts of my life, but I have. Where it's like if I'm only communicating sporadically with my athletes on a one-to-one level, then I would be the coach in this scenario that would lose athletes to AI. No doubt about it. However, there's going to be a portion of your athletes who are like, hey, I'm here for the interpersonal relationship. The AI piece doesn't scratch my itch. I don't have an itch right there. Right. And also the AI piece is still new. There's going to be another subset where after they go through a season or two, or maybe even a year or two of AI coaching, where they're going to be like, I understand this. I see some value here. I also see the gaps. And I think maybe it's time for me to get a one-on-one coach. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be a one-to-one leveling out.
Right.
But I think there will be people who go the AI run coach route who then, because of that experience and knowing its limitations, will then vault into I think it's time for me to get a one-on-one coach for a certain amount of time.
I think the danger, and maybe danger is too strong of a word, but it's the not knowing what you don't know piece is what trips people up. So you can have, your AI coach, but you don't know what questions to ask. You don't know what your blind spots are. You don't know what you don't know yet. Whereas a human coach will be, hey, how you sleeping? Or whatever. A human coach will already preemptively ask you questions that you never would have thought of because you haven't been through this experience before, or you haven't gone deep through this experience before. And that's something that AI, at least not yet, maybe it will in the future, it's not ready to do yet. It's not ready to know what you want before you want it, Right.
And I think also the thing to understand here is the same thing that people talk about in terms of like AI, like as a writer, right?
Right.
Is that it is a collection of a variety of different writing styles. So it's essentially like an average or a median, output of the things that it has, put in its data set. So from a coaching perspective, you're getting something similar. It's like you're getting the average of the data it has collected, unless you're using it in a very tailored way. So you're not going to be able to do this for many people, but like, I think the obvious example here is, say someone were to be like, hey, like, how would David, like, if you were to instruct your AI to be like, all right, I want you to read all of David Roach's writings outside online, and then also, listen to episodes, whatever, of the Somewhere Call Play podcast, and tell me how David Roach would advise an athlete in this certain scenario. Again,
right.
It doesn't mean you're going to get the right answer, but that's a very specific prompt.
Or Matt Chittim or Claire Bartholic, they could make up, an AI for you or me any day.
Well, not necessarily for me, because I don't put a lot of stuff out for coaches. But there's
for
people
me,
who
for sure.
who they would potentially be able to get a tailored response. But that's a very small subset. And even then, like, I wonder how useful it would be. But ultimately, like you said, I think you do need to be savvy enough on the run side to know how to prompt it. So I think that AI run coaching is fantastic, like I said, for the people who were in this gap between like, the Hal Higdon free plan is great, but I'm kind of like past that now. Or like my life is too busy to just have like a static plan. And then other people who are like, I'm committed to my coach and so on and so forth. So I think there is a good middle ground there. And I do think that over the years, we are going to see people who And maybe it's part of like the run coaching marketing. We're saying, hey, like, basically start targeting people who have been using AI, but who know that who've been able to due to their experience with it over time, know the blind spots that the AI platform has that maybe the individualized run coach can fulfill.
I'll be back with Matt right after a short break. If you're training for a big race this fall, can I ask you something? You're about to spend the next 3 or 4 months waking up early, running through summer heat and humidity, rearranging your family's schedule because you've said yes to a goal that's important enough to demand these things from you. So why would you trust all of that to some mass market training plan? You are not the average runner, and I'm not talking about average paces here. You have your own goals, your own strengths, your own weaknesses, your schedule, your own life. That's why I created a new quiz to help you find the right training solution for you. In less than 2 minutes, you'll answer a few simple questions, and I'll guide you to the best option based on your experience, your goals, and the level of support you actually need. Whether that's a custom training plan, group coaching, or something more personalized, you'll get my recommendation designed around you, not the algorithm. Because your race matters, your time matters, and the work you're about to put in this summer deserves a plan that fits your life. Head to theplantedrunner.com/start and let's find the right path to your best race. That's theplantedrunner.com/start.
The internet gives us a glimpse into the crazy happening all around us. Unhinged behavior, personal secrets, unbelievable coincidences. It's all one big circus, and the RR Show is your front row seat. Each week, we curate the wildest Reddit stories just for you. Whether you're into hilarious accidents, insane relationship drama, or pure chaos, these insane confessions are sure to make your jaw drop. Listen to the RR Show weekly on Mondays via your favorite podcast platform. Or get your episodes early and ad-free by becoming a member. The RR Show. All of the drama, none of the hassle.
Welcome back to The Planted Runner. Here's more of my conversation with Matt. Yeah, I think that is what I've been thinking about a lot too. It's like the training plan used to be the secret sauce. And I don't care how great a coach you are, a workout's a workout, AI can do that now. The knowledge isn't secret anymore. It's all out there. The knowledge is not our power, it's the level above. And, I've even thought about giving away training plans for free. And
see, I think you should be the opposite. This is what I think. Like, everyone was convinced that streaming services were going to kill movie theaters. Right. And for a while, it was looking that way. And then what happened? Movie theaters said, listen, we can't compete with what is essentially like a free product. It's not free, but like it's already paid for. Right? Like someone's already paid for their streaming service for that month. When they watch that movie, it feels free because there is no transaction happening. Right. So like we can't compete with that. So like you can't go that route. You have to go the other route. Like, no, we're going to make this feel like a special occasion. Like the seats are going to be amazing. They're not going to be bare bones anymore. They're going to be the best seats. They're going to be this and that. So like when you go to the movies, it's like, this is an event. Yeah. And I think that's like, if you're going to try to compete with AI in some sort of like doom loop of like race to the bottom from a pricing perspective, you're going to lose.
For sure.
However, you can do the opposite. You're like, hey, if you don't need any human interaction and you don't want any human interaction, then hey, AI is for you. If you're like, hey, no, like that's not my thing. Like I need someone who's going to be part coach, part counselor,
for sure,
part like, someone that I can, if I need to shed a tear, they're there. If I need to like brag about myself, they're there. Or if I'm just unsure how to feel, they're there. If you're that person in their life, then that's the kind of thing that's irreplaceable for that individual if they value that relationship.
Yes, I love that. So tell us about your running lately, Matt.
What running, Claire?
That was a very rough segue, but let's move into what's going on with you.
All right. So this is a great example of like, all right, like AI is not going to be helping me.
AI will not help you here.
No. So I have not run since done a proper run since the first week of January of 2026. So
Ouch.
by that, I mean, I've done a couple run walks, which there's nothing wrong with doing, whether you're rehabbing, you're preempting the rehab, or that's just your level of fitness. There's nothing wrong with a run walk. For me, it was because of knee pain, which is no fun. So, I was working through some knee issues. I'd had knee issues in the past, a few years ago. Went and saw a fantastic physical therapist, Dwayne Scotty, from the Healthy Runner podcast, who actually lives pretty close to me. So I was able to see him in person, which was fantastic. And he gave me like, here's the strength work you need to do. Here's your pre-run stuff that you should do. And whenever I was doing those things, the pain abated. It was great. Around this time last year, those exercises stopped working as well. And I was just kind of like trying to figure it out on my own. And then finally in January, it was like, it hurts to ride the bike. It hurts to do the elliptical.
Oh, no.
Never mind running. I need some professional help with this knee. So I did that. I did a full 6 weeks looking at, with the physical therapist in person to take a look at the knee. We did all the stuff. I was diligent doing the exercises. I strengthened the leg, all that stuff. The pain in the knee did not dissipate at all, even though I was, doing what I need to do. So did that for 6 or 7 weeks, then got in to see an orthopedic surgeon. Mm-hmm. And they called in the MRI, which I got the results of, and then I got a second opinion on the results. And ultimately I have a complete radial tear in my medial meniscus on my left side. So that's the inside meniscus. Complete radial tear means when you think of like a circle, like a radius. So that's like what's what radial means in this situation. So it's a complete tear of the meniscus, which means it's in 2 pieces inside of my knee. So I just booked the surgery yesterday. So on August 7th, I'll be going in. They'll be suturing the 2 menisci together. And then I'll be having a 4 to 6 month recovery, including, basically a 4 to 6 week term of completely not weight bearing, which will be not the most fun way to spend my August, but that's just the way it goes. Because there's 2 different kinds of meniscus surgeries. There's the one that I just described, where it's in a couple pieces and they sew them back together. And the much more common one is that there's like a tear, especially on the inside of your meniscus, where there's much less blood flow. They'll do a slight trimming of that area, which basically only needs like 3 to 4 weeks of recovery. It's not hugely impactful on people's lives. They come back pretty quick. I wish that's what I was having. So I have the much more elaborate version of this. And unlike a knee replacement, where like if you get a knee replacement, they want you walking on that thing as soon as possible to try to get integrated into your leg, getting the, while reducing inflammation, trying to increase flexibility as soon as possible. The meniscus recovery seems to me, again, I'm not a professional, the opposite of that, where like they need these 2 pieces to heal as well as possible, which means don't put any pressure on it. Don't bend it in a crazy way that like will bring the bone down and crease where the sutures were put. So it's kind of like the opposite of that. It's more like if you had, like a severe cut, like on your skin, I mean, you put the Band-Aid on and you would try not to like bend your arm or leg in a way that would like reopen the wound.
Wow. So how is your mental state with all of this going on? Are you able to exercise? I mean, we talked when I was on your show about identity when it comes to running. So how are you holding up physically and mentally?
It's come in waves.
Okay.
Like the good days and the bad days. Being an athlete's been at the core of my self-identity since I had a self-identity.
Right.
I would say. I mean, since I was a little guy, I was always, being an athlete was one of the paramount parts of my life. And then to, find out like, a couple of weeks ago, like, hey, there's an 80% chance the surgery will work and you'll be able to run again. It's like, wait, there's a 20% chance I'm not going to run again? Like 45 years old, like this came out pretty fast. That was a tough pill to swallow. There was a time where like there was one PT day where we were way more aggressive than the other days, and whether we should or shouldn't, I'm not going to express my opinion on that here, but ultimately what happened was that for 6 or 8 weeks, my knee was a disaster. Like riding a bike was like immediately painful. It was the worst my knee had ever been. And I was like, I can't do anything. I can't even ride a bike. Walking the dog hurts my knee. I was like,
oh, no.
What is this? Like, it just felt like it came out of nowhere. And, for me, it was, I always haven't been the most dedicated athlete, and we can talk about it too. Like, my commitment to running hasn't always what I wished it had been, especially now that I can look back with clear eyes about like, well, you had all these opportunities you didn't take advantage of. It was, you're in that point where you're like, this sucks. But then you bounce back and you're like, hey, like, yeah, this isn't the best, but like, let's not act like you're incapable of doing everything. Like, so a couple weeks ago, I was like, all right, like, there's nothing stopping me from, say, lifting upper body.
Yes, right, that's what I was going to ask. Are you going to get super huge in the upper body?
So for the last 3 weeks, I think I've missed 1 day of lifting. The last 3 weeks, which
how's your bench press?
So it's like, for me, this used to be a major part of my life when I played college basketball. Like, I'm not a big guy. I was the shortest guy in my team all 4 years. Mm. Like, I was the shortest guy on the other team too. Like, I was always the shortest guy on the court. So being a good athlete and being strong was always important. So if I was, a dedicated lifter since I was 16 up until I was 22. That was a major part of my life. So getting back into that has been enjoyable. And thankfully my knee is rebounding over the last couple of weeks from that aggressive PT sessions. Like, I have been able to get back on the bike. So like this past 7 days, I've kind of built up from 20 minutes up to 35 minutes and increasing the intensity as well. I'm not trying to do too much too fast, but like, the fact of the matter is, Claire, like, I have 45 days until surgery and I'm the heaviest I've ever been. So I want to make some headway on this. And this is my goal, is to like lose 15 pounds in the next 45 days, so that, when I'm 4 to 6 weeks now weight bearing, like not many people are going to be at their best physically when they can't move, when they can't do weight bearing stuff on their legs. So I don't want to go into those days.
Everyone's going to want to know, how do you lose 15 pounds in 45 days?
Well, for me, it's like, I think that most people would tell you the same thing, is that like, fitness and strength is about output. What are you doing in your workouts and things like that? And certainly there's a part where recovery goes in, but the other part is like from a weight management perspective. And this is part that's bedeviled me in the past because of my lack of, just dedication and willpower and commitment, is like, the weight management piece is more about input. Right. So it's making the right decisions on that front. And it's doing that sort of thing. So the output has always been easier for me to get excited about. But the fact of the matter is that like the other part is just as, if not more important.
For sure. And I mean, I think lots of people struggle with that. That's why, GLP-1s are so nice now. Like, people are taking them all over the place. And, Americans especially have always struggled with input. So I'm sure people want to know, so what's your strategy? You can't just white knuckle it. Or is that what, are you going to track? Are you going to weigh? Are you going to how do you do it?
Right. I've because of my forays with this in the past, I know that like tracking and weighing just doesn't work. It's going to just immediately be a no. Like, I'm just not going to do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like, I have tried doing that sort of thing in the past, and I understand the rationale behind it. Just academically, it makes all the sense in the world. I also know me, because of experiences, like basically it's an easy way for me to be like, I don't want to do that. And then all of a sudden I'm off the rails. So It's much more about like, I think what I'm going to do, and I have been doing past, week to 10 days, where I've really kind of dove into like, all right, I have a date with surgery. And before, like, we set up yesterday, but it was a good idea when it was going to be. It was like, all right, there's a date certain. It's not just like, I want to lose weight. And it's like this ephemeral goal that's not connected to a timeline. All of a sudden it's like, no, I have a timeline. Boom, let's do it. It's more about, for me, like having, basically setting up my eating the same way I would set up training. Where it's like, knowing ahead of time, this is what I'm eating. This is the plan I'm going to do. So I'm not going to share exactly what I'm eating, because for every person is different, but like, it's just more about like, all right, I can't go into each day like thinking about like, I wonder what I'm going to eat for lunch today. I wonder what I'm going to have for breakfast today. I wonder what my snacks are going to be like. No, like I'm going to have that stuff. And I have had recently this stuff planned out ahead of time so that the decision's already been made. I'm not making the decision because frankly, I can't trust myself with that decision.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you're setting a plan and you've got things to work on and you've got a goal. It's very goal oriented of you to do it that way. It's very much like a runner putting a race on the calendar. Okay.
Exactly.
I've got to do X, Y, and Z before race day. So let's work backwards and see how we can get there.
And it clicked in immediately. The minute I had that time goal, that not time goal, but like the date and time where I was like, hey, do this by this date. It was before like I had the goal. Like for me, 15 pounds was simple. It's like I weighed 200, 185, sound like a good round number. That's going to be the goal. Right. So I didn't like think too hard about it. I just picked one that felt right and went with it. So is it too pie in the sky? I don't know. That's irrelevant for me. It's more about like, is it getting me excited for the actions that I want to take? So that's really what it's about for me. And it did have a similar feeling internally than putting a race on the calendar. Like it clicked in immediately, like, all right, this feels right, as opposed to just like the general, like, oh, I should do this or, oh, I should do that.
I'll be back with Matt right after a short break. Welcome back to The Planted Runner. Here's more of my conversation with Matt. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So you talk to a lot of masters runners. You are a masters runner. Your whole podcast really, a lot of the themes of your show is about normal people in midlife who find running. And I would love to talk about that for a few minutes. Like, what kind of overall themes do you see with people who pick up running in midlife and either are really successful at it or maybe not even successful at it in the terms of numbers, but just fall in love with it midlife when maybe they weren't an athlete before?
Yeah, I think the thing that catches people off guard and it stops them from like embracing exactly what's happening in their life is like the surprise element within them.
Tell me more.
It's like where they're sitting there like, all right, like you mentioned, you illustrate this perfectly of like, all right, this isn't what I did in the past. I haven't been doing this lately. I'm starting to do this now. In my, in terms of what conventionally would have been said, like past my peak years or whatever. And I think that people just assume that they're not going to be that successful at it or like that their results will be quite modest. And that certainly can be the case. And if you're just doing it for just general health, you're just running a few days a week, there's nothing wrong with that. But like you're probably going to have like, medium to average results. It's probably not going to be an earth-shattering thing. Just like if you approach any hobby with that sort of commitment, again, you're going to improve, but it's not going to be like earth-shattering. But I think that what I love hearing about are the 35, 40, 45, 55, 65-year-old people who are like, you know what? I like this. I'm going to commit to seeing how good I can be in this. And what's great is that like how good they can be in this is way better than they thought that would be.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Seeing that evolution of like, wow, I didn't know this was inside of me either because I had never seen it before or because I don't know anybody who does this. And like, this is, I think that the personification of this, or the best example I can think of is like a dear friend of ours, like my wife and I, like, I'm very friendly with this couple. So this woman taught with my wife for a number of years. So I'd see her husband at like all the teacher parties around like holidays or things like that. And one time he's like, hey man, like I've been getting into running a little bit more. I'm running like 30 miles a week. And, I think things are going well. So he's just kind of like picking my brain about running. And I just inquired, like, have you done any races recently? He's like, no, but I've been doing some long runs, more like 15 miles. Again, he's running like 35 miles a week. So the long run was like 50% of his weekly mileage. So he's like, hey, I was like, oh, well, he's like, I have it over here on my Nike app. I'm like, all right, so bring it up. And he shows it to me. He'd run like 7:10 pace for 15 miles.
Oh my God.
He had just started running like 18 months before and he was 58 years old.
Oh my God.
And I was just like,
That man needs
Bill,
a coach.
like, Bill, is this really your run? He's like, yeah, why? Like, he didn't understand why I would like phrase it like that, because I was like aghast, because like, you know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at like a complete outlier,
Yes. Super
so
fast.
I'm like, Bill, hold on a second. So I go outside and I call my buddy James McCurdy, who's the head of McCurdy Trained, who's, coaches some of the best runners in the world, even, Olympians even. And I'm like, James, you wouldn't believe what I just, like, I relayed the conversation to him. So I had him set up with the coach, John Ranieri, who's one of the best American marathoners a couple years ago. And, this was great because like this guy, Bill, who's on my podcast recently, Bill Volpe, and if someone's interested, you should go listen to that episode. Like, he's now 60 years old. He's one of the best 60-year-old marathoners in the country.
Oh my God.
This guy started running
How fun.
6 years ago because the school he taught at held a charity 5K race. That was his first race. And he only did it because the other teachers basically like peer pressured him into it.
How fun.
And it's like, now, obviously he's born with certain genetic gifts. That goes without saying. But I'll say it here just in case someone's like, that's not that story doesn't relate to me, or I can't relate to that story, whatever. My point is simply this. This was like an unpolished diamond in plain sight. And the fact of the matter is, the only way to work off the dust and the grime, to see what was underneath, was committing to the process and seeing what could develop. So while there was a certain amount of genetic gifts that Bill had and has now, also like the only reason that he's able to see that is because of the work he put in. And my point is simply, he was just any other person 5 years ago. And right now, you, dear listener, you could be that person and not know it, because for so many people, what they don't understand is when they think of athletic ability, and understandably so, they think of like fast twitch athleticism, because when we're younger, almost every sport that most of us do is centered around that kind of explosive, fast twitch expression. Mm-hmm. So the opposite side of this is the less of that kind of muscle fiber you have, the more you may have that's really focused more on the endurance side. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, I was never a good athlete before, you're like, no. What simply might have been the case is that you weren't an explosive athlete, but you might have always been a good endurance athlete. You just didn't know it yet because you hadn't engaged in those kinds of activities. And we both know that those also don't age with the same rapidity as the fast twitch muscles do. So if you're an older athlete, it's not too late to find out what's inside of you, and you could be shocked at what you see.
Yeah, I love that. And I like working with athletes all across the board. There's some people who, have been running since junior high and they're 65 years old and they're still killing it. That's a certain personality. But then, like you said, you get these people who were never athletes in high school, never considered themselves athletic. And then for whatever reason, they get into it for some random reason. And whether they end up being super fast or not, just are able to see themselves as an athlete for the first time in their lives. And they see these huge jumps. That way. What's that?
Like, I work with an athlete now who's that exact way. We started working together, maybe it was 6 years ago. And when I first talked to her, she talked about herself she talked about herself in a way that was like, like I'm a diesel engine kind of vibe. Those are not her words, but that's kind of like the words she was using, right? Like, hey, like, it takes me a while to get to go fast, but once I'm going, I have pretty good endurance, but like I'm not a fast runner. I don't think I'm ever going to be fast. I'm already in my 40s, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. Every year she's PR'd. Every single year.
How fun.
For like 6 or 8 years. And it's like, this isn't because like she's had a masterful coach. She's had me as her coach. So she could have done this with any coach. The point is that she always had that within her, and she's incredibly dedicated. Like, she is committed to this sort of thing. She's not running 100 miles a week. She has a full-time job, but she runs, 40 to 50 miles a week most weeks. But with that said, maybe it's more 35 to 45 because she takes 2 days off a week. Yeah. So she still, she runs 5 days a week. She puts in the time, but she's been doing it for years. She spices it up. She runs shorter races. She runs longer races. She'll run hillier routes. She'll run flatter routes. She does all of those things. But ultimately, someone who self-described as like, I'm not fast, but I do like to run, is now she's 48 now, and she's setting PRs at every single distance every year. Yeah. And it's like, if she was in this podcast talking right now, she would say the exact same thing I'm saying, in that she would tell you, like, don't just assume because you're at a certain age that you are done improving. Now, is Sarah Hall going to be faster at 48 than she was at 28? No, she was the fastest person in the world when she was 28.
Right, exactly.
But you, listener, probably weren't that. You were probably, if your athletic potential is a 100 floor building, you're probably on floor 17 or 27, or maybe you're on floor 63. Congratulations. That's a good spot to be. And maybe your athletic ceiling, maybe that building is now 91 floors, not 100 floors anymore because of aging, but you're still only like 2/3 the way up, man. You got plenty of room to move.
Yeah. And, hard work beats talent that doesn't work hard, and that's that your runner that you talked about exemplifies that.
Well, the other thing too is that, like, I think people get confused on what talent is. Like, talent is dependent. When someone says, I'm talented, that phrase in and of itself means nothing in a vacuum. It means something in relation to the activity you're talking about. So if you're talking about endurance running, don't confuse it with, was I talented for basketball when I was 12? Those are two completely different sports. They have almost nothing connecting them. Mm-hmm. So just because you might not have been talented at this, don't confuse. Don't be like, hey, I can't play the guitar because I'm not a talented painter. Don't be like, that's a ridiculous sentence. That's the same thing as saying I'm not a talented runner because I wasn't good at basketball when I was 11. It's like those two things aren't related.
Right.
You should probably stop comparing them.
Yes, I agree. So where do you see the Rambling Runner going in the future? And what lessons have you learned from all your years of podcasting?
It's going nowhere. So, sorry.
In a good way.
You could take that phrase to mean either of two extremes. The podcast will continue. I'm not changing anything. It's not going anywhere, meaning like it's staying exactly where it is. So I started the podcast as a part-time endeavor, and I was doing it, full-time on the side, essentially, was what it was. And that's exactly what it will still be. It'll still be roughly 6 episodes a month, talking to the same kinds of people, and I'll still try to, try new things here and there. As I go along, and that's how I've always done it. That's how I'll continue to do it. I have stepped back from Relay. I don't work with them anymore. I've also taken a step back from Road to the Trials. I'm still on the podcast, but not nearly as much as I used to be. It's much more Peter Bromka and Lindsay Hine carrying the show over there. So I have stepped back from a couple of things, but Rambling Runner is still a major part of my life, and I've gotten so much good feedback over the years on that show that to my surprise, as much as anybody's, it seems like for the people it connects with in a major way. So I'm delighted that that's the case. And for me, I started doing it in the first few years because I really love it. Mm-hmm. And doing something like that, talking on this podcast right now, I really enjoy talking about this sort of thing. So even if it didn't make any sense financially, even if I was like, had no sponsors and I had to pay basically everything that was coming out of my pocket and my full-time job was subsidizing my hobby, I would still do it because I do enjoy the conversations and I do enjoy the heart of what made the podcast special in the beginning. And that hasn't gone away. I just wanted to be part of a profession like I am now with Running USA, where I'm part of a team. And I enjoy that so much. I'm still a part of running in a major way. And I'm on the event side. And the fact of the matter is that events are absolutely exploding. And this is what, going back to AI, I don't think that's going to change. I think as AI continues to grab a toehold in our lives in a major way, I think that element provides like a corresponding and equal element where people are going to, and have shown this over the last couple of years, have a need and a desire to connect experientially with other people and with the things that they love, whether that's going to more concerts, whether that's going to running events, whether that's going to Spartan, name your experiential activity. All of these things are increasing because of, and I think most people would agree with this, because of this technological piece that's only growing on the other side. So I think that because of that, I think those skills will continue to balance out, which means that I don't think the running boom is going anywhere, and I want to be part of it.
Well, Matt, I think that's a perfect place to wrap this up. So for people that want to follow you, where should they go?
Go subscribe to the Rambling Runner podcast on whatever podcast app you're using to listen to this right now. And also, I think that from a social media perspective, my main hub is over on Instagram. You can follow me at rambling_runner, but definitely listening to the show is the best place to catch me.
All right. Thanks, Matt, for coming back on the show.
My pleasure.
And now it's time for this week's Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is activation, not anxiety. Before an important race or event, your body gets ready. Your heart rate speeds up, your palms might sweat, your focus narrows, and the mental what-ifs begin. This is often labeled as performance anxiety, but what is actually happening is more accurately called activation. Your brain is releasing adrenaline and cortisol to get you ready to perform. This can either feel overwhelming and hinder your performance, or it can feel like your body is simply doing what it is supposed to do, activate to prepare for something important. The words you use to describe this feeling are important. If you label this as anxiety, you will feel and perform worse. Reframing it as simply activation and accepting it as a necessary part of the process will change everything.
Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can enter to win a free custom training plan for your next race and get featured on the show. Just write an Apple Podcast review and enter at theplantedrunner.com/PRLab. Of course, reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.